Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Daughters of Hadassah. My name is Gail. Today, let's look at 2nd Samuel chapter 13. And today I would like to focus on Tamar. Tamar is King David's daughter. Oh, you didn't know he had a daughter named Tamar? Yes, Tamar was a little virgin girl, little teenager. Tamar was innocent. Tamar lived in the palace. But Tamar also had two brothers. An older brother named Amnon, who was David's oldest son. And Tamar had a brother named Absalom, who was her full blooded brother. For Absalom and Tamar had the same mother and father, which was King David. Absalom had Amnon had a different mother, but the same father, David. Amnon had a obsession and infatuation with Tamar. He thought he was so in love with Tamar. He just had to have Tamar. It made him sick when Tamar was around. He was obsessed with Tamar. But he didn't want to do the right thing to get Tamar. Instead of him asking for Tamar's hand in marriage, asking the king, he tricked Tamar by having her to come and cook for him because he was sick. He had fell ill, which was a lie, and wanted her to cook so he could eat at her hands. So Tamar, being the innocent young girl that she was, virgin girl, went to her brother's side to take care of him. But when she got there, he didn't want the food. He wanted Tamar. And Tamar begged, "Oh no, please don't do this." He grabbed her and forced himself on her. And even after he took her innocence by raping her, she begged him, "Don't just discard me. Don't just throw me away, but do the right thing." Amnon knew that once Tamar was touched, that she could not marry, she was no longer a virgin, and that she would never have any children. It was the culture of the day. A man didn't want a woman, a young lady, if she wasn't a virgin. So what he took from her, he not only took her innocence, he took her future away from her. Tamar is never heard of again, other than the fact that Absalom, her older brother, took her into his house and she lived among Absalom and his family as his sister. Now, now King David was notified of Amnon's actions, what he did. And King David was furious. But in him being furious, he did nothing. Now, your oldest son just raped your baby girl, who is a virgin, and you do nothing. Can somebody say dysfunctional family? But how many of us have had people in our families who have touched us, who has violated us, who has done wrong by us for years? Some of us are still kids. Some of us have grown up. But we had this rule in the family that says, what goes on in this house stays in this house. What goes on between this family stays in this family. You have had uncles, you have had cousins, you have had people close to the family who have touched and violated you, your siblings, or someone that you know. And it was kept under the rug in silence, and nothing was done about it. Dysfunction. But I come to encourage you, my sister. God sees all and He knows all. And I know that it seems you're probably frustrated and thinking, well, where was God when this was happening to me? God sees all and He knows all. If you can't trust your family members, you're probably saying, how am I going to trust anybody else? I don't trust nobody, not even this God that you're talking about. And I don't want to hear nothing about God because He was not there when I needed Him, when this was happening to me. Tamar probably thought the same things, but learn to look at the blessings of the story of Tamar. Tamar knew that she would not be able to get married because she was no longer a virgin. Tamar knew that she would not be able to bear children because she would never get a husband, because her innocence, her virginity, her future was stolen from her. Tamar still had her life, health, and strength. Tamar still had her brother, her oldest brother, who provided for her, shelter for her. I'm quite sure he took care of her. Tamar still had the blessing of Absalom's family. So she counted her blessings. And no, the Bible does not say this, but I'm quite sure she didn't live in misery all the days of her life. She learned to look at her situation, where she was, and make the best of it. And I say to you, to encourage you, you still have your life, health, and strength. You still have a bright future among you. You don't live in the Bible days where you are not able to marry and have children because of what happened to you. Now, I'm not being insensitive because I'm going to tell you a little story in a few minutes. But in the same token, there's nothing that any of us can do to take back what happened in the past. The past cannot be changed. And it's unfortunate that we can't trust people, not even people in our families that should be protecting us. But instead, they take advantage of us. But you have a bright future. You can marry. You can have children. And if you choose not to, that's you. But you do have the option and the opportunity to do so. The second thing is you are still here. You still have life. You still have breath. You still have strength. What are you going to do with your story? Now, Tamar was unable to tell her story. You have a voice, and you can not only tell your story, you can help to heal somebody else's life, to heal what somebody else has gone through, what somebody else is going through right now. Young ladies who have had their innocence taken, not just by family members, but by strangers. Young men have also been molested. I worked at a juvenile detention center for 9 years. And with me working in the juvenile detention center, I was usually in the young men's portion of the unit. And some of those young men would come in, and it was a family of brothers. There were 4 of them who would come into back and forward into the system like clockwork. But when you talk to these young men, they'll tell you their story of how their uncle molested every last one of them. There were 5 brothers. And it was usually at least 4 of them at the detention center at one time. The younger brother was 12. And as soon as he hit 13, he was in the juvenile system also. Their uncle had molested each and every one of them. These young men were furious. They were angry. Their innocence was taken from them. And you know what they did? When they had a roommate, we had to set a rule where these young men could not have roommates permitted just on their last name. When we knew that they were coming in to the detention center, they were automatically not allowed to have roommates. Because these young men would do to other young men that were locked up with them what happened to them. They would hurt. They would violate. They would rape. They would take another young man's innocence because it happened to them. Now, Tamar was not able to do anything about her life. These young men, they will grow up and have the opportunity to heal and to help and to tell someone else their story if they live long enough to. But you, my sister, you have a voice that should not be silenced. Don't allow what happened to you to happen to someone else. Don't let it happen on your watch. And if there is nothing that you can do to stop something that you don't know about, there are different places where you can use your voice to speak at schools. You can use your voice to speak at retreats and church functions and conferences and things of that nature, and share your story. But you must be healed first. What are you doing to get healing? Tamar didn't have counselors. She didn't have psychiatrists. She didn't have anyone. It was in the story for her. But you have all of these resources. What are you doing to get help? When I was 4 years old, I watched my mom being brutally raped by one of my dad's friends. He came knocking on the door asking for my dad. He knew my dad wasn't home. My mom never opened the door, but she spoke through the door and said, "He's not here." And as my mom was talking through the door, he kicked the door in, came through the door, and violently raped my mom. My mom screamed. She fought. She did everything she could to try to keep this man off of her, away from her. And I stood there watching from a distance as he smacked, hit, ripped my mother's clothes off, and began to violate her right in front of me. 4 years old. I'm innocent. I don't know what sex is. I don't know anything about sex. But I watched this man beat and violently take from my mother what she didn't want to give him. I didn't have trust for anyone after that. I grew up with trust issues. I grew up with fear. I had nightmares. I was tormented. I had all kinds of dreams. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid to go to sleep. I just had all different kinds of fear issues, rejection, abandonment issues. When he physically raped my mom, he raped me too. Not physically, but from my dreams, from me trusting, from me believing in that anyone or anything would be there to ever help me, to rescue me, to bring me through in any kind of way. I had trust issues, fear issues, afraid to go forward, afraid to reach out and do things, afraid to believe in me, afraid to believe that I was beautiful, all because of what he did to my mom in front of me. Until I got my life together and decided to walk this Christian walk. And God began to take nightmares away, began to take fear away, took the dreams and turned them into positive dreams and seeing in the future and things of that nature. And he healed, gave me boldness and confidence. And not only am I healed, but my mom is a Christian who believes in Jesus Christ, who is healed and whole and set free from a past, so much so that it don't look like it ever happened to her. But it took God to step in. It took God to take the fear and the pain away. So family members saying, oh, what happens in this house stays in this house. That happened to us for years. My mom and I, we were told to never mention what happened. And we didn't. But we didn't decide to just stay stuck where we were. Once I gave my life to Christ, I began to heal. I began to deal with and to face what happened in front of me. Once my mom gave her life totally to Christ, she began to face and deal with, what happened to her. You, my sister, can also get up, deal with, face what happened to you, and use your story to give God glory, just like I'm doing right now. I use my story to encourage you that you can get up, you can be healed, you can live. There is a life waiting for you to thrive, to share, to get up and become everything that you know is inside of you to be. Greater is waiting for you. Get up and be healed. Don't be like Tamar, who had no other options but to be stuck where she was. You have options, my sister. Get up and live. Be blessed and be a blessing. Thank you for listening. And I pray that you will think about subscribing to my channel by hitting that subscribe button. And if not, just give me a thumbs up if you like the conversation. If not, give me a thumbs down. Leave me a comment. Let me know what I can better improve. But I pray that you were encouraged. Have a blessed and prosperous day.